Good morning, everybody. I hope you are all keeping well on, unfortunately, a slightly dull Thursday during turbulent times. For those of you who don't know me, my camera's on the video. My name is Colleen Baxter, and I work for the Galway Chamber as the Membership and Events Coordinator. I guess these are our new events, unfortunately, due to the current situation, but we're absolutely delighted to be here today with ITAG and Regional Skills West to put this presentation together. So we'll just slide down slightly. We can get our slides rolling. There we go. So one of the things that both Regional Skills West, ourselves and the Chamber and ITAG want to do is to provide support, especially during the COVID-19 situation. So you'll see there that free and discounted online training is being offered, information on government supports, and support on how to resolve skills issues. So Denise's details are there, so do feel free to reach out to her afterwards if you have any questions. For those of you as well who were waiting to get in, you'll see that the menti.com notice at the top of the page, so do log into that. We're also delighted to be working with ITAG SkillNet, so they're a learning network for companies of all sizes, and they would deal with the sort of the technology centre in the West. And I know for myself, I would never have said I was IT smart by any means. So their support is greatly appreciated, especially as we move towards a very digital era for the moment and maybe for the future, unfortunately. So join our poll. So we will be doing a poll. We have 4 questions that we'd love for you to answer. And your feedback is greatly appreciated. And obviously we take it into consideration when putting on future webinars, trainings, resources, etc. And it's great for our speakers to know as well what questions you have and what opinions you have. So if you can go on to www.menti.com and use the code 176711, and you'll see the first question is, what are the urgent needs or issues facing your company right now? See if the second question wants to pop up at all for me. So when you go on to Menti and submit the code, it will change it for you. Second question, are you interested in taking a short online course on digital sales strategy? It's a yes, no, or not sure, so nice and easy. And then if you are interested in taking a digital sales strategy course, does it need to be accredited or certified? And I can see people are answering already, which is great. We will review them towards the end, just to see sort of what data we're getting back. And what other online training would be useful for you and your team or company right now? Right, getting like some marketing training is definitely useful and well needed in the current climate. Sales, online selling, of course. Microsoft Teams. That's something that myself, I think I could do some training on. It's very new to me. So definitely. Perfect. So we are quite lucky today to be joined by three wonderful speakers. We have John McArdle, who's the VP for Worldwide Sales with Channel Mechanics. I'm sure John will give some of his background himself, but he does lead up sales for Channel Mechanics, which is an Indigenous company which offers a digital SaaS platform. And it allows companies from any industry to sell their offerings via B2B channel partners. For those of you, if you didn't understand any of the acronyms of such, I'm sure John will jump into them. Our second speaker is Oleg, who's Director of Operations from the Not Worldwide, which is established in an established Galway office, a large team that I know was expanding as well, which is great to see. And they have a team of content creators which sort of sell the offerings as well as target buyers. So another wonderful speaker. And last but by no means least, we have Fergal Lyons, and Fergal is the co-founder and COO of Inside Out Sales. So Fergal has worked in global production, sales and marketing roles for Somatic, and has an understanding of direct and indirect sales, both of which are very important when you're looking at selling, and the best way to do that. He's also recently co-founded Inside Out Sales, which offers a sales as a service to companies that wish to scale and don't have sufficient in-house capability or capacity. I think that's very important, as we would see that some of our teams mightn't be as large as we want. We might be trying to grow them, etc. And so it's great to have the additional support while you're maybe building a team. And just to note, we are recording the webinar. Just we will ask that you keep your microphones muted during the presentations. But there is a little chat box option, and it should pop up on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat box, and we will have a panel discussion at the end, and we'll do our very best to answer all of them. But look, you've had enough listening to me. Without further ado, I would like to pass you over to John McArdle from Channel Mechanics, and he'll run you through his presentation on why sales teams need agile content.
Thank you very much, Colleen, for that introduction, and good morning, everybody. As Colleen said, Channel Mechanics is a Galway founded and headquartered company based in Oranmore. In summary, to give in a nutshell what we do, we effectively offer a commerce platform. We're like an Amazon for companies that sell business to business. So companies that want to get their product out, particularly to international marketplaces, and work through a network of distribution or resellers, would come onto our platform. We primarily focus with technology companies. So companies with a local presence in Galway that use our platform include Cisco out in Oranmore, Titan HQ, which is an Indigenous tech company in Salthill. But the platform can be used pretty much for any industry. So we have manufacturing companies, we have companies that produce furniture, we have companies looking at the platform from medical device industry as well. So quick background to what we do. Next slide, please. So just a couple of things that I'll touch on today, and like any good presentation, the slides are only there for future reference. We'll talk a little bit about what we mean by content and why, particularly in today's environment, is it needed more than ever, how you can use it, more importantly, how you can get good content, and I'll share examples of local Galway companies particularly, and examples for different industries. So even though we work in the tech firm, I'll talk about other businesses in the retail space or the services space in Galway that you might be operating in, and how you can use some of these techniques as well, what tools you can use, and just some real examples of what not to do, and some tips for putting out good content. Next slide, please. So this survey, while it may seem relevant and has come from Forrester, who do a lot of analyst work in the technology sector, with the current situation that we're in today, the only way that most people can buy or make purchase decisions is digitally. So it is absolutely imperative that all businesses have the content available to allow companies to come on to ideally their web store, or it may be Facebook or Instagram, however you can actually present your business today. But digital for most organizations is the only way you can get customer attention. Next slide, please. One of the challenges is that many companies have not geared up fully or have traditionally not needed to develop content. And this has been a challenge. And the question is asked then, who develops this content? My take on it is marketing generally writes the story for the business, and sales tells that story and tells it in different formats. Within Channel Mechanics, many of our people have become content writers. We need to get content out to the marketplace quickly. So we have people from our marketing team, our sales team, our customers, our partners, our suppliers, anybody that we can ask developing content for us. And that gives us a range of tools for the salespeople. So here's just a short list, and for people that work in sectors such as retail or small business services, some of the more common platforms or content that you might need are not listed here. So give examples, for instance, of businesses that market and sell over Facebook or over Instagram. They would not be key platforms for Channel Mechanics, but I know they are key platforms for many people. So the types of content formats that are gaining a lot of traction, as we see right now, is video. There are many video streams coming in, small clips, particularly trying to bring us some relief and humor at the type of situation that we find ourselves in. People are getting time now to listen to podcasts. People are taking time out to read content again. So again, you have many forums now to get content. And don't underestimate email. Email is still a key way to get messaging and content out there. Next slide, please. So how is it used? Well, from two perspectives. From the buyer's perspective, people still want to be informed. They want to be educated. They need help with decision making, and they need to compare between offerings. And if you look, long before this developed, we had prepared these slides and the picture of the shopping cart. People want information even from their supermarkets. What's the available opening times? Are there any exclusion times? What's the policy for picking up items, for delivery drop-off? So much content is needed to be published now around not necessarily the content of your store, but how you actually interact with your store. What's the social distancing rules? So many different types of content had to go up there pretty quickly. In terms of how do you get good content? So let me pick just some examples here. Video, as I mentioned, is very common, very popular at the minute. And again, within Galway, we are lucky that we have some very innovative companies that have moved possibly from traditional businesses around print. A good example company is iSupply, where they're developing their range of offerings not only to include traditional print, but they can do animations and videos. And that level of professionalism will really help you develop your business. Another good example is if you're in property or residential, a company called Showhouse, again based in Galway in the Portershed, have developed a tremendous platform to help people still navigate, negotiate, look through properties that are in the market with a future intent, hopefully, to buy. But look also to your customers. So great example in Galway, co-write with your advocacy customers is look at our bookshops, be it Eason's or Debre's or Charlie Burns even, which is inviting people on their website today to do book reviews. So again, draw in your customers, and people really value those reviews as well. Next slide, please. So just some examples of bad content, and this is again as experience that I've received. So I watch content and outreaches and sales outreaches that come to me from a whole variety of companies all over the world that want to sell me their services. It can be software services, it can be marketing services or sales. And the golden rule now is people have time to read what you're sending them. So be aware of the cultural differences. We know in Europe that to address somebody by their surname, or certainly in Ireland, is not traditional. People also want to make sure that you have taken some effort to personalize and know their role and know what they're doing. So if you're reaching out to somebody and you're sending personalized content, make sure you've done a base level of research. People want to feel that you've taken a bit of time to do that. Next slide, please. And of course, people in this rich media world of video, color, mobile, they don't want long, bland, big messages either over email or on your website that, and particularly just talk to what your company does, doesn't talk at all to them. So this is the type of reading that will end up in the bottom left-hand corner very quickly in your waste paper basket if it comes in physically, or it'll end up in your recycle bin very, very quickly or deleted. So be very careful about the context. Just some tools. This may seem simple, but the number of people that don't seem to use spell check on every piece of content, you know, depending on the service you're offering, maybe it's not critical, but generally people do like to see that you put some particular attention on the quality of what you've done. There's no substitute for proofreading, particularly now with website content or blogs or case studies, that again, it shows that you've got discipline. A tool that I use and we use in Channel Mechanics, and it can be used by any industry sector, is CoSchedule. It's a very powerful, simple, free little tool to help you write headlines. So a key thing in today's world is you're looking to get attention. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of videos coming into your feeds, a lot of different blog content out there. But if you're writing email or writing outbound messages or even Facebook messages, what I like about CoSchedule is you can put in the short headline. It will give you a rating of what the emotional attention it might get of different factors, and it will even give you a library of words that it suggests that you try changing your headlines. So it allows you to keep compelling messages, and you can also use it for the body of your documents as well. A lot of people use it just for headline, but you can use it just to test some small sections of the body of your messaging as well. Next slide, please. One of the things that most of us do today is mobile first and content first. So within Channel Mechanics, we re-architected a lot of our messaging to write mobile first. Golden rule is if it doesn't render on a mobile screen first, then it shouldn't be sent. Now, again, this is particular context for our business, and you may need shorter messaging. But in order to get that discipline, one of the things that I learned is the value of writing mobile first. So if you're looking to improve your writing or encourage your team to improve writing, look to the rich capability we have within Galway. I went to Charlie Adley's Creative School of Writing. Charlie worked for many years and wrote for many years with the Tribune Group in Galway, but he has developed a range of courses that allow people, and what I particularly liked about that is Charlie's focus is on the aspect of creative writing. How do you do things a little bit differently? But his main contribution to my writing was make sure you write less, and for every assignment I was given, I had to write it on a mobile screen first to keep it short. But again, you can see here some of the key points. I won't go into them. Try and get an attention grabbing headline, but have a clear call to action. If you're in a business that you can get a message out that calls people to do something, click on your website, buy something, follow up with another piece of content, try and use the content outreach on the mobile to get your audience to do something. Next slide, please. And again, remember, in the midst of all of this, people have tremendous complexity of choice. The biggest buying challenge for people today is they have too many choices. Now, if we take a simple example like the motor dealer trade right now, again, you can only buy or research buying a new motor online or a car. And now you've got this challenge where it used to be about which brand do you pick, which model, which spec, which engine size. But now the big complexity is around fuel type. So if you go into a motor dealer today, you will probably spend more time asking for advice and guidance on whether you should go electric, whether you should go hybrid. You don't even talk petrol or diesel typically. So again, remember from the buyer perspective, make content easy to find, easy to access, and easy to understand. Thank you for your time, and I wish you all continued business success during the times that we're in. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. A quick overview of Denard Worldwide. We're a company HQ'd in the US, but we have a global presence. We're in Galway for the last year. Our main business focuses on the wedding industry, specifically providing leads for wedding professionals and wedding venues, especially in a very competitive environment when it comes to weddings. So the way you can think of us is TripAdvisor for weddings. Our main function out of Galway is content creation, specifically text content creation for the different vendors and wedding professionals on our website and platform. And what we are aiming to do is to increase the SEO performance, the search engine optimization of our website, but also the business of our vendors. So what we have broken down our writing structure is to 4 pillars of successful content writing. So if we go, initially we look at empathy, and what we mean by that is because we are writing so much content for different businesses, for different partners, and we don't necessarily prioritize anybody ahead of any other business. We're always trying to think of both the reader and the actual business owner, of how can we aim to just provide as much information as possible without being too overwhelming to the writer or to the reader of the different possibilities or business connections that they can have on our website. So we always try to think in the shoes of the vendor, but also of the user who's going to be reading the material. Our next pillar is creativity. As John mentioned, there's so much content nowadays, and there's so much selection that we're trying to find the creative way of sparking the imagination of the actual reader to further investigate the business of the vendor or the venue or whatever the case may be, to see if there's any products or services they can purchase or use. And the way to grab the attention is creativity. And the next pillar is clarity. Nowadays, depending on the audience you're targeting, depending on the geographical location, cultural background, the content can be adjusted and created with different information points and different overviews. So it's very important to be clear and just provide a clarity of either the service or the business, or what can the user expect from the professional or the service provider they're using, and to be precise and not too overwhelming with a lot of text or unnecessary information. And the last pillar is really accuracy, especially nowadays that there's so much social media availability of information. There's so much information that there has to be a source of truth. And when we are writing any content, we make sure that we can back up all the information that we are putting on our website, especially about a vendor or a business location or history or information. So there is no misunderstandings when it comes to the final purchase or using of the actual services. And in regards to scaling up a content team, we have 30 writers in Galway that are solely focused on creating written content for the different businesses that we have. And The way we found it, we found to actually be able to skill up is by finding the right experienced team. So if we go to the next slide. So we have very multicultural and multiple experience background from the writers, from marketing, from sales, for customer support. What we're trying to achieve is a diverse background of the different writers. We didn't necessarily focus on finding somebody from a wedding industry, because when we're describing a vendor or a business, we would like to have different perspectives so we can focus on different areas, different geographical locations, or different audiences. And the way we would recruit usual content creator, we would have a 5-stage interview process. It might sound very extensive and a very long process, but it's not. We were able to find 20 content creators in the span of 2 months, and that's from the day of the first interview to actually giving an offer. So what we would do initially, we would maybe recruit by overviewing the basic qualifications of a writer. So if they had maybe some background in blogs or vlogs and so on. But I think the most crucial stage of the interview is doing an actual team committee interview for a cultural fit, to make sure that they are able to actually fit into the company and be able to represent different businesses, but also have that open mind and creativity to write the content we require. And in regards to the continuous upskill and motivating the writers, really one of the main sort of experiences that we found to be successful is content sharing exercises. Because we have people from different backgrounds, we would take a business or one piece of content and ask different writers to create a written piece about it. And then each writer would share that piece and see how it could have been written from a different perspective, which again aims to assist in targeting different audiences and different geographical locations, or whatever the category may be of the business. It's something that gives them perspective. And what we found with content creators is they love to see tangible results, specifically from a content perspective, is seeing the SEO results, seeing the traffic to the website, seeing leads being created from their content. So it's important to have some sort of tangible reports that can be shared with the team, and to make sure that they can actually see that their work is giving a positive result to the business. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Oleg. So this is Fergal Lyons, and just by way of a quick introduction, I've been involved in the technology industries for about 30 years now, working in startups and large corporations, and in a variety of roles, from software development and product management, and then more recently in sales and marketing roles. And in those sales and marketing roles, I've been involved in creation and management of a lot of content for different platforms, both published and created for websites, etc. So, you know, there are a number of pitfalls that I encountered along the way, and I just wanted to highlight a few of those with you today. So the first of these, and I'm going to dig down on this one in a lot of detail, in fact, is dubious and irrelevant claims. There's a terrible danger when you create content of putting claims into your materials that people will question, will look at and go, does that really make sense? So be very careful about what you're claiming. I'm going to dig down further on the whole topic of claims management. Also be very careful about unintentionally offending, sorry, thanks Denise, your audience. There, you know, when you're dealing with an international audience, there are a lot of cultural considerations, and you need to be cognizant of that and make sure that the content you're creating is, you know, hits them in the right way and doesn't offend them. Two other things then, conflating audiences and surging content requests. I've often found that when you start creating content, you try to address many audiences at the same time. Maybe you're creating content, you're trying to address a channel, you're trying to address an end user, and you're trying to provide content for your inside sales team as an education. Each one of those is distinctly different And you really need to target your content very, very carefully and make sure that you know who your audience is. And then the final one, surging content requests. This is a knock-on effect of this, of targeting your content. If you've got products, you've got different channels to market, you've got different platforms you're creating content for, you end up with this huge surge of different types of content that needs to be created, and quite simply can be overwhelming. So look at your content requests coming to you and make sure that every single piece of content that you're creating will be used, because there's nothing more frustrating from a content creation perspective than having content that doesn't get used. So now I'm going to focus back on claims. And what do I mean by claims? Claims are anywhere within our content where we're making a statement about the market, about our customers, or about the products. And we use these in a variety of ways, but in truth, within content, these tend to be quite foundational. These are the things that we build our messaging around. Here's a few here that some of them you'll be quite familiar with. You know, the 8 out of 10 cats prefers Whiskas. Great. We're well used to that line, but they're making a statement that really needs to be backed up. Likewise, we look at, you know, in John's material, he mentions 62% of B2B buyers now can finalize a vendor list based on digital content. A phrase like that draws us in, makes us interested in what the rest of the content is going to be about. 37% of high growth companies use inside sales as a primary sales strategy. That's one that's central to our message in Inside Out. These companies, if they're going to grow, they need to make use of inside sales. And I even have one here for Oleg. Engaged couples rely on technology and wedding professionals for all planning and partying needs. That's a phrase that he uses within his website, and of course it really tells the overall story of the knot, and therefore it's something that draws in the user. Next slide. Let's skip over this one. Thanks, Denise. Here's one that we used in Symantec when I worked there. Cybersecurity Insights report reveals consumers' growing concerns about cyber safety. This was a block that we used within web pages and within presentations, and it draws the user in and says explicitly what it is we do, what problem is there is that we're trying to solve. And everything else that we build around this supports that initial foundational message. So why do we use these claims? What's the reason for them within content? And the first is to create context. What is it that we're trying to tell the user? What's the overall topic that we're trying to address? We get that up front. And this may be in the form of a call out on a data sheet or on a brochure. It might be a website headline. It might be in a presentation as a slide. It might be a call out block within an email message. It can be used in a variety of different ways. It brings credibility. If you can make a strong statement about the market, it shows you understand the market. If you can make a strong statement about your product, then straight away that resonates with the user. We also use it to show relevance, to say our service, our product is relevant to this market. We also use it to highlight pain points. There's, you know, if you can call out a pain point early on within your content and show that the reader, show that your solution addresses that reader's pain point, and that's very, very strong. We also use it, of course, to brag. So let's say Gartner named you one of the top fastest growing companies in Ireland. You want to brag about that and use that as a claim, a statement up front. But here's what's important. You need to make sure that every claim that you use, that you can stand over it, that you can back it up. So first off, are the claims correct and accurate? And Oleg talked to this as well, the importance for content being accurate. So the claims themselves start with there. Are they derived from a reliable source? You'll see ones that I mentioned in a bit that talk about they come from Harvard Business Report, or they come from Gartner, or they come from other vendors or resellers even. They can also come from within your own company. You can make a strong statement about your product. For example, John said that on average vendors use Channel Mechanics, using Channel Mechanics launch their incentives 95% faster. Of course, Channel Mechanics are the ones who know that. They can make that statement, but they can also back it up. Really important is that any claims you make are current and up to date. Claims get out of date really, really quickly. And if you don't ensure that you manage them and refresh them on a regular basis, you can lose credibility rapidly. Also, are they applicable to the region? You can make a statement about a market. For example, the one that I mentioned there about identity theft. That was only applicable to the US market. You can't use that in a European market or in an Asian market. So make sure that your claims are applicable to the region you're targeting with your content. And always be cautious about legal concerns. If you make a statement that says that your product is going to do something and it doesn't, it could open you up to legal jeopardy. So keep that in mind. So here's the recommendations that I would give. Review and validate all claims used in content before publication. Make sure that you have a process for validating them all. Make sure that every claim you have within your content is attributed with source and with date. That's particularly important for external claims. Choose your claims carefully. Discriminate. Make sure that you have ones that are uniquely applicable to your product, your market. Very general claims are just of limited value. Use them consistently across the various content types. If you're going to use them within your presentations, use them on your website, use them in your printed materials. Consistency looks good overall. Because the number of times you use the same messaging, the stronger it gets. Schedule a review of the claims on a regular basis. This is very important. We found this in particular in Symantec, that it was essential that we have a process for reviewing those claims. And if you identify any claims, any content that use retired claims, pull it, revise it, and make sure you pull it at every point through your sales channel. That means within your inside sales teams, within your digital media systems, within your channel itself, channel partners, wherever you have used this content, make sure that you can pull it back and revise it when necessary. This is the type of thing that we used to use in Symantec. This is where we would track each of our claims. We gave them each IDs. We would identify what that claim was in terms of the text, state the source and the region that it applied to, and most importantly, we would give it an expiration date. So then we'd have a process whereby whenever the expiration date came around, we'd review that claim, figure out if it was still valid, and if it wasn't, go back to every piece of content that used that claim ID and revise it. Okay. So the next peril, as I identified at the beginning, I wanted to talk to is cultural considerations. I have just two quick slides on this. First off, talking about language. So language is really important, and you have to be sensitive about how you use language in different regions, in different cultural environments. The second image there shows it's a marketing campaign that I worked on for Geo Digital in India. And we worked very closely to come up with language that made sense for the Indian market. The terminology was very different, and we had to make sure that we could address them in language that made sense for them. You got to avoid aggressive phrasing. So, for example, in the US market, you can you could have a phrase within your content saying "dominate your industry." It's a very strong and aggressive phrase. You couldn't do that in the Japanese market. It would not be appropriate. It would be deemed very, very rude. I'd also say avoid colloquialisms. I often see people saying, come to Galway for the crack. Don't say that. It just doesn't work well on a broader audience. Obviously, for some content, you're going to have to translate it into local languages, ensure the translations are accurate, and leverage any local resources you have who can validate that. One particular image before we leave there, just for a quick laugh, I noticed that there was this music festival pitched for June 28th here in Galway, fever pitch. Clearly nobody is going to that music festival now. All right, next up then, the imagery. So consider your audience when you look at, when you consider what imagery you're using within your content. Is it applicable to your audience? Is it applicable to your message? Inclusivity is something you should definitely aim for, definitely a positive thing to include. It's not mandatory for all content, but it's definitely something you should consider. But be wary of cultural appropriation. Don't use specific cultural things without a very strong reason for doing so. And be sensitive to different standards in different markets. A picture like that of a girl doing yoga certainly conveys a very positive message, a lifestyle message for us, but it wouldn't be appropriate in all markets. So you need to be conscious of that. All right, so they're the 4 pitfalls that I wanted to talk to today, 2 in detail, and hopefully that helps a little bit. So Inside Out is a sales as a service company recently founded here in Galway. Our aim is to build great sales teams and to help you to build great sales teams as well. So we help to, we provide an outsourced service to build reach, scale and talent. We're focused on startups and SMEs. That's our target market for now. And we also offer sales training and consultancy. And we can also help with development of content if you have any needs in those areas as well. So if I can be of any help, please feel free to reach out. And that's all I've got. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Fergal, and obviously thank you to all our speakers and to our attendees. So one of the things I want to do is I'm going to throw out a question to the 3 of you, and you can let us know. I want to know your first answer. So what challenges do you find in content creation? What is the biggest challenge you come up against?
This is John. I'll take it first. The biggest challenge, Colleen, is writing in particular is a very scarce supply skill. It's quite amazing that even a number of years ago, some of the leading firms in the US, like Goldman Sachs, even made a statement, their chairperson, that writing is one of the most scarce, or good writing is one of the most scarce skills worldwide. So finding people that can write has been a challenge, particularly inside your organization, to reduce costs.
Thank you, John. Fergal and Oleg, would you agree with that, or do you find different challenges yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree with John. Luckily, in Galway, we have a pool of talented writers, which is great. But for us, I guess it's keeping up with all the flow of new content coming through from all the different media sections, be it social media or news, whatever the case may be. All the new trends are coming up. For us to keep up with what is in trending or in fashion, you always need to be revising your old material. So that's one of the challenges, is to make sure that you are creating new content, but also updating your old content to make sure that it's ranking in the correct way within Google or whatever other search engines that may be crawling to your website.
Great. I guess staying relevant is of such importance as well. I'm trying to make sure that you are catering for your audience that is ever changing in this day and age. Fergal, what would you think yourself, or would you agree with you, gents?
Yeah, the one more thing, the additional thing that I would point out is the need to be succinct. In creating content, you have a very limited attention window that readers are going to give you. So you need to make sure that you get your message out very precisely, very succinctly, so that you can hold their attention for that brief period, because they have so much content to consume. There's so much out there right now. You better get to the point very quickly.
We may have lost Colleen there. She's there, but it's still muted. It was just to see if there are other questions from the audience. There's a chat box that you can type questions into, or feel free to, hopefully you don't all do it at the same time, one or two of you can unmute yourself and ask a question. I know one question that we had for you all was what challenges you were experiencing yourselves in terms of content creation. I guess no one has any challenges in terms of content creation after viewing that the webinar and listening to our speakers. Oleg, John, Fergal, do you guys want to add any more nuggets of wisdom?
I think, again, it's John, from my perspective, is just to encourage people to reach out to other people in other sectors. It can be even into the universities as well, who provide tremendous insights into what's going on with digital sales, digital marketing. So we have built very close relationships with the teams in GMIT and NUI Galway. So, you know, if there are areas where you need help and need content creation or ideas, feel free as well. It doesn't always have to be commercial. I know the universities really value giving opportunities to their students and their master's students in particular to come in and help with businesses. And from my experience, some of the best content creators, particularly around new media types and rich media type, are the students and the younger professionals. As you noticed earlier, I didn't have even Facebook or Instagram on my slides, so don't look to my generation to create that stuff.
And I think Colleen is back now. She just temporarily got kicked out of the call for some reason. There's a question here from Dara in the audience about how often should we be posting content in an ideal world? There's a question.
Yeah, do you want to take that one, Fergal?
Fergal, you're on mute, so I don't know if you know that. You can unmute yourself if you want to respond to that question. If not, we'll...
Yeah, I'm back. So yeah, I think when it comes, it depends on your business, but in general, you should be creating content on an ongoing basis. So for example, if you have your website, you should really have a blog on there so that you can just on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, whatever it might be, keep fresh content going there. And that helps from a website SEO perspective as well. But also you need to make sure that your messaging is continuously fresh. You need to respond to what's going on in the marketplace and show yourself as being engaged and active. And the best way to do that is continuously updating content.
Thank you, Fergal. Well, I think we have one more comment from David. The rule is generally sales content only 30% and the rest a mixture. Is that still true? Or are we looking towards sort of videos and memes from the internet and pushing them in their branding? David is of the opinion that that's not good practice, to use videos and the likes. But I guess, is it still the 30% rule of content with a mixture, or how do you feel about videos? Oleg, am I have any opinion?
Yeah, sorry, just mute there. So for us, I mean, 30% would be still relevant. However, again, it really depends on the type of business that you're trying to aim at, the type of audience. I mean, for our platform, we really are posting material on a daily basis, and the actual percentage breakdown of the videos to text to sort of engagement polls and so on would really differ depending on the the actual source we're using. So be it on social media or an actual blog, or depending on the audience again that we're targeting. In general, it changes the 30%. I wouldn't stick to that 100%. I mean, it does vary, but again, it really depends on who you're targeting and how often you're trying to post that content.
Perfect. No, and I think you are right. It does depend. There isn't a one rule suits all or fits all as such when it comes to sales. Folks, I think we're going to wrap it up. I'm conscious that everyone still has a day's work ahead of them as such, including our wonderful speakers. I do want to thank gentlemen for your time. It's been great. I know personally I learned a lot. And it's something hopefully that the participants can take back and use themselves. Also, a big thank you to Denise from Regional Skills for driving this and for linking with ourselves in the chamber. We will be liaising with those of you who attended afterwards. We can send you on some information if you have further questions. And do feel free especially to get in touch with Denise if you are interested in getting sort of further training or support, etc., for yourself or your team because of the COVID-19 scenario, and even further down the line. So that is all for myself. A big thank you, Garmeen and Mahagi, and I hope you all have a lovely, lovely day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.